Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russian.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. I'm joined by Chris and Patrick, as always. How are you two gentlemen doing?
I continue my move and getting everything situated and cranking out product and all that stuff. So Labor Day weekend is going to be lit.
Patrick always gives real life answers, and I always give the same answer.
Which is also real life, though, about the horrors.
I suppose. Yeah.
Something about that.
Yeah, they persist, but I do as well.
Patrick, how was your night last night, bro?
Outstanding. I got to do a ballroom blitz for like 2.5 hours of straight dancing. Note to self, wear an undershirt. I sweat.
If I ever go ballroom blitzing, I will do that.
That was bad. So
can you tell us what a ballroom blitz is?
Yeah, it's where like contestants get together and do rounds of waltz, then tango, then foxtrot, back to back to back to back until they're ready to puke, and then they take a break, and then they do rounds of rumba, cha-cha, and swing. And then eventually I have a heart attack.
So this is like the what would it be for 6? I was going to say biathlon, but it sounded like there were 6 there.
Hexathlon, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think that would probably
or
be
maybe
right.
Sexathlon.
Well, that's what you had afterwards.
That's what I didn't want to say.
Set that up for you.
So you had a sexathlon of dancing.
Actually, not exactly. We might have had a decathlon because we also had the social dances, two-step and country waltz, and the merengue and the bachata. So
that's a lot of dances to have learned.
Yeah. Things hurt on me right now.
And this has been about a year, right? Because didn't you do it just for a couple months before the wedding?
We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of just consistent ballroom dance lessons.
Wow.
Do you celebrate that more than your actual wedding anniversary?
Our actual wedding anniversary is November 5th.
That's true.
So it's going to be an interesting day no matter what.
November 5th. That's what we're celebrating in Gart in Myrtle Beach.
I mean, not November 5th. You're not.
No, but that next week.
Yep, I know. It's going to be a packed month.
Yeah, hell yeah. Anyway.
So crazy we have a Gart right after the election.
I know. It's like we planned that or something.
I did frickin' Threadfest 2 right after the midterm.
Ash, I disavow. Ash says this is gayer than usual tonight.
You're gay.
I didn't even think it's been gay so far.
Hasn't been a little bit gay. She's just a troll.
You suck it, Ash. Okay, well, maybe we can get into the show stuff and make it less gay, even though it hasn't been gay yet. But I'm sure it will get gayer.
I'm here, so I can pop off with gayness at any moment. You never know.
I can tell by the shirt you're wearing, dude.
That'll be in the video.
Let's okay, tonight we're going to talk about Kamabla and maybe some signs that maybe they want to get rid of her. And there's been some interesting stuff. Like she had that tweet about the Gold Star families and Trump at the little ceremony he went to, and she has taken shit for that post, and Trump is loving it as well. We got the Army in DC, or is it the National Guard in DC and New York right now? Or is it just New York?
I've heard both in New York.
Yeah,
but there was something about them putting up fencing in DC, wasn't there?
Maybe I feel like we get posts like that.
They do that all the time now.
Fairly often, yeah, and I never know if it's legit or not. I also want to talk a little bit about the DOD getting involved in our elections in a small fashion, and then we got an NSPM that we're going to discuss that I think is pretty interesting, and we'll see what else comes up. We'll see what happens. But before we do any of that, Patrick, are you ready to get a word in from our sponsor of tonight's show?
Which sponsor would that be?
That'd be EasyRx.
One moment, please. Sorry. You know me, hold for processing. Got it all set up and everything. Okay,
the show.
Almost there. Yeah, I'm the best. There we go. Tonight's show is brought to you by our partners at EasyRx. Did you know that EasyRx has been committed to supplying high-quality medications since 2011? For more than 13 years, EasyRx has focused on your health by supplying much-needed medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, fenbendazole, and more. With the C19 election variant and Mpox, or monkey P, narrative in full swing, now is the perfect time to stock up on essentials for you and your family. The ordering process is simple. The shipping is fast. and the prices are unbeatable. Rest assured that you and your loved ones are going to be ready for anything by visiting badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx. Don't forget to use promo code Badlands for a 10% discount on purchases over $150. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx and use promo code Badlands for great savings.
There we go. Thank you to EasyRx. Yeah, let's kick things off with a little Kamabla talk. And Chris, I know you presented that idea, so maybe you take the lead.
Well, I did a show about this yesterday after watching the interview on Thursday night. And so she's now 40 plus days into her, since Joe Biden decided that he wasn't going to be running for president anymore. And apparently he's just been on the beach for 3 weeks now. Yeah, it was July 21st.
Man, it seems like it was literally like a week or two ago, but it has been that long.
Yep. And so that's her first sit down interview, her first big girl interview. And
she did it with Walls.
Yeah, in Georgia. So she brought a chaperone. It looks like they filmed it inside a WeWork or something, like an abandoned apartment building. If you look at the shot of them, I'll find one of these pictures, but if you look at the shot of them, there's just somebody in my chat pointed out, there's 8 coffee cups just strewn across the tables in the background. Kamala looks like she's about 4 feet tall, kicking her feet below the table. It's just the weirdest thing. They don't make her look good. The interview is softball questions and setup questions. Yeah, this actually makes her look better than some of the shots. I'll find some of these pictures. But yeah,
she's carrying.
Oh, that's just break glass in case of emergency. That was
gotcha. Okay, how cute. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's her chaperone. Okay. That's her phone a friend if she needs him.
Haha.
They spent 4 minutes of that interview, the last 4 minutes, asking Tim Walz about what he thought of his son spazzing out at the DNC, looking like a cross between Kyle Rittenhouse and Brendan Fraser at the 2010 Golden Globes. And then asked her about this iconic picture that we had not heard about. As far as I know, I hadn't seen any news of this iconic picture. There was a setup. They took Kamala's niece with her 2 little braided hairs, out the side and the back. And the photographer put her below the stage, looking up at Kamala as she was speaking, and got the photograph of her head looking at Kamala. And apparently this is Kamala Harris's iconic picture, just her staring at herself, essentially. That's going to match up with the Trump picture. So I was just amazed at how they've made this thing look. They're not making Kamala look very good. They're saying they're saying kind of nice things about her on the panels afterwards, but also that she didn't really do all that well. The polls are tanking. The next morning after the interview, there were headlines about Wes Moore, the Maryland governor, who's supposed to be the next Obama, hit pieces on him. A lot of strange signals. It feels to me the way it felt in the couple weeks lead up to Joe getting jettisoned.
Interesting observation. I just don't know. I mean, you hear people talk about this, and I've heard so many times that people are saying it's going to be Clinton, it's going to be Obama, and I would have, engaged with some of that discussion prior to the DNC convention. At this point, I don't know if they can actually get rid of her.
What's stopping them? The premise already for totally ignoring what any voter could possibly care about, any of the process, any of the rules, any of it, was that they were concerned that Joe was going to lose to Trump. And they don't really even lie about it at this point. One of the CNN ladies the other night said that Joe's too old. That's why they got rid of him. It's not that he can't run the country. It's that he's too old for the future. And so is Donald Trump. It's not true. It's because he's demented and they knew that he was going to lose. If Kamala Harris looks like she's going to lose, and they're writing articles about how her polling is worse than Clinton's in 2016. It's worse than Joe Biden's in 2020. You know, any idea that they're going to have any sort of election integrity, it's going to hit a point where it's going to be impossible for anybody to believe that Kamala could win. And so at that, and not only that, to be dragging the Democrat Party down with her so they can't even steal down ballot. And at that point, then they have a decision to make. Do they get rid of her and take one last shot with somebody that they think might be able, they might be able to sell as a winner? Maybe that's Michelle Obama. And if not, then they just have to try to cancel the election at that point.
And that's right.
I mean, it's a fake. This is all fake. So
yeah,
there's going to be a way that this winds out, you know?
We are almost 2 months from this election, like 2 months and like 4 days.
Yeah.
Like you got to imagine at some point here that they've crossed this, you know, point of no return. And I know they can just make up whatever they want to in a fake election. I totally get that argument. But even for the narrative, like, how are they going to sell that?
Well, they think that they have enough people who just don't want Trump. They have to make Trump look as terrible as possible.
Yeah.
Make all of us look like terrorists, you know?
What if Patriots in control means that the entire working class, the staff class in this politico media industrial complex that we're looking at right here, the one that would produce something like this abortive Kamala Harris interview with her security, like her emotional support dog vice president with her. And I'm just wondering if they're being sabotaged deliberately by infiltrators within the, you know, the crew class, the people who actually make the inner workings of these institutions work on a day-to-day basis.
Judas goats.
Could be. I mean, I think there's ghosts in all the machines.
But so numerous at this point that it looks like calamity. But the people at the top have no idea what's actually going on. They just know that the help has turned against them and is making them do dumb shit.
Certainly possible in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I looked at Trump's statements and what Trump has done, starting with the debate against Joe Biden. It was unnecessary. Neither of them were officially nominees yet. He did that on purpose to remove Joe Biden from the board. Like that was his move to take out Biden. Because had he waited until after, he was the delegate, they would have been stuck with him. But now they're not. So now they have Kamala. And Trump has said in some statements how, she's not my first choice, but she was definitely my second. And to me, that tells me this is who Trump wants. And I think my statements about Biden and why I didn't think they could ever get rid of him or would ever get rid of him is because I thought he was the best one to steal an election for, in terms of like how obvious it would be that he didn't actually win.
It'd be so great if they brought him back.
It would be, but
he's the one on the FEC forms.
That's true.
That's
true.
On the FEC forms.
I saw something about that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, she took over his number or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if they switch her out for him, that could work. I don't know. I just don't see it happening, because either way, no matter who they put in there, they're not going to be able to get away with stealing it. And maybe Kamala is better for the narrative in terms of it's going to be that much more obvious that she didn't win. Like the way they're doing this entire campaign is so stupid. Like you can't run a campaign on change when you are the sitting vice president.
But that makes it more hilarious.
Yeah, man.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, there's no rules to what they're doing. You got to understand, they make the rules and they enforce the rules on other people if they are finding themselves at a disadvantage. That's what the rules are there for. And so they'll just get rid of the rules and keep going. And they'll create a calamity about it and say that it's a crisis. And Donald Trump is so dangerous that just this once, we need to violate all our principles, just like just the same way they rationalize everything else.
Little scumbag Sam Harris said it like a year ago. I wouldn't care if Hunter Biden had the corpses of dead children in his attic. I would vote against Donald Trump.
Maybe we should watch that. It's so deranged. He's kind of disappeared in some sense after he went off Twitter.
Yeah, he's a wicked little gremlin.
He really is something, man. That guy used to be like an intellectual hero of mine. And then the Trump era began, and it was just like, oh, wow, this guy's seriously deranged. And it's just all intel agents on his show. The only person who has as many intel assets on his podcast as Sam Harris is Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, the original intel asset.
I'm trying to find the clip of that. Was it on Lex Friedman's?
No, it was on what is it called with those two English normies?
Okay, here. I think this is it.
Oh,
had the corpse of children in
trigonometry.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden, but even if Joe Biden, like whatever hope of Joe Biden is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, like there's just it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view. Right? Now that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right. But I think it was warranted, right? And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
That particular piece.
I'm really sorry. I was the one.
I mean, that's insanity.
It's like listening to the crazy dude in the padded room who is cheeking his second generation antipsychotics for weeks at a time.
It's just it's crazy. Like, not only are they campaigning on change as incumbents, but they're also like saying Trump's going to do a bunch of things that he never did the first 4 years he had the opportunity to do so as president. And they're going to cheat to do, like you said. They don't give a shit. And there's this story, and I didn't even have a chance to finish this yet. But did you guys see this? The Constitution is sacred. It is also dangerous.
I did not read this.
Yeah, I did not, but I could only imagine it coming from the wondrous pages of the New York Times.
We should read a couple sections of this, but it's one of the biggest threats to America's politics might be the country's founding document. And this is like it's fear porn. They're trying to precede a narrative of justification for whatever shenanigans they're going to pull to make sure that Trump doesn't take office.
I think they're most worried about going back to the original Constitution.
They could be. Let's read some of this, Patrick.
By Jennifer Zalai. I guess that must be Hungarian. The United States Constitution is in trouble. After Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, he called for the, quote, termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Outraged critics denounced him for threatening a document that is supposed to be sacrosanct by announcing his desire to throw off constitutional restraints in order to satisfy his personal ambitions. Trump was making his authoritarian inclinations abundantly clear. It's no surprise, then, that liberals charged Trump with being a menace to the Constitution, but his presidency and the prospect of his re-election have also generated another very different argument, that Trump owes his political assent to the Constitution, making him a beneficiary of the document that is essentially anti-democratic and, in this day and age, increasingly dysfunctional.
You could probably agree with that last part.
It was designed to be anti-democratic. It was designed to create a republic.
Yes. And it worked for a long time.
Let's read a little bit more here.
After all, Trump became president in 2016 after losing the popular vote, but winning the Electoral College, Article 2. He appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court, Article 3, 2 of whom were confirmed by senators representing just 44% of the population, Article 1. These 3 justices helped overturn Roe v. Wade, a reversal with which most Americans disagreed.
Can you stop there for 1 second? I saw a poll today, and this is another weird thing. They're saying that a majority of Americans now, their number one issue for this upcoming election is abortion instead of the economy. Like apparently abortion has overtaken the economy in terms of what people care about most, which I find totally false.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing that they can actually claim to have an advantage on. And I don't believe that they actually do have a popular advantage on that. That's just the one issue where their messaging has held up in some sense and hasn't been, we haven't had a great visual example of why that's wrong, right? We've been fed for 3 years we have on our side of things been fed for 3 years this immigration story, or certainly longer than that. It's been attacked by the mainstream media. Like Fox News has gone hard on immigration for the last, let's say, 9 months, when they were trying to pass the last spending packages, when they were trying to put together that immigration bill that got the bipartisan support. That became a big issue then. There hasn't been a real big thing about abortion aside from the overturning of Roe v. Wade. There hasn't been, everything the idea is that we're shown everything so that people experience the different aspects of the issue and they really think about it. It feels personal to them. We haven't really seen that with abortion.
When it comes to Roe v. Wade, it came out and it was wrongly decided in 1973. I was born in 76. Ever since I was old enough to understand the issues, and certainly ever since I was a very young adult, like college age, I had a very simple argument about abortion. This is not in the Constitution. Therefore, this is a state level issue.
Yeah.
End of story. And Trump gave us exactly what the proper legal framework was. Whether your opinion about abortion is that it should be allowed sometimes or never or somewhere in between, that's the obviously correct decision from a federalism perspective. And now we have to listen to all these desimps on Twitter bitching that Donald Trump doesn't want to do a Game of Thrones level federal abortion ban where you just sweep throughout the 50 states with feds, nightsticks, all gesticulating. And quite frankly, I don't understand it other than it's just purely venal desire to make money, which they can do through donations, and to hurt Trump because he kills their grift. And this is coming from somebody who genuinely thinks that abortion should be considered murder in the penal code, and the doctor and the mother both become complicit.
You made a really interesting point there. So first, let me show where this is from. They're saying New York Times poll, voters increasingly say abortion is their top issue. The economy remains a top priority for most, but abortion has surpassed immigration as a key issue for many voters in swing states, and most trust Vice President Kamala Harris over President Trump to handle it, according to another New York Times poll. But your point about the DeSimps, they're the ones that are hammering Trump the most for not going far enough. And they're just saying here in swing states, they're going to steal it. And they're going to say that, well, it was the, women under 40 who wanted abortions, who won it for Kamala. And those two things are going to meet there, the DeSimps and the Kamala voters, to steal that election. And the DeSimps are going to blame Trump for his stance on abortion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been talking about this for 2 years, and everybody was like, DeSantis is kayfabe. Why are you talking about this? Well, this is why.
Remember when Ash said that DeSantis was going to be the VP choice?
I do remember that. Ash doesn't feel that way anymore. The DeSimps are all a big tribe of trolls. Mm-hmm. And when they show their faces, it's really remarkable because we've seen a whole bunch of people that we thought were, on our team or, part of our movement, and then they just become DeSimps. It's really bizarre.
What do you think they must be thinking, considering that all of them are like Bush, McCain, Romney people?
I was a Bush, McCain, Romney person.
Yeah, but you're not anymore.
No,
you know what I mean? And their livelihood depends on continuing to be Bush, McCain, Romney people. Now they don't have their audience has left them, so they try to be aligned with Trump supporters on certain things. They thought the anti-wokeness was going to do it. And the anti-wokeness is just the controlled opposition of wokeness. Like if you're producing trans content 24/7 like Matt Walsh is, you are woke.
Yeah, he's a little bitch too.
But yeah, man. I mean, That's the Con Inc. effort. That is the GOP establishment fighting back, and they are going to join their friends on the uniparty left if that's what it takes to make sure that they're not just removed completely.
Patrick, I do want to finish this here.
You bet.
We're just going to finish this introduction, and then I'll post the link to it in the chat. And I think we're right here.
The eminent legal scholar Erwin Chemerinsky, worried about opinion polls showing a dramatic loss of faith in democracy, writes in his new book, "No Democracy Lasts Forever. It is important for Americans to see that these failures stem from the Constitution itself." Back in 2018, Chemerinsky, the dean of Berkeley's law school, still seemed to place considerable faith in the Constitution, pleading with fellow progressives in his book, We the People, quote, not to turn their back on the Constitution and the courts. By contrast, No Democracy Lasts Forever is markedly pessimistic, asserting that the Constitution, which is famously difficult to amend, has put the country in grave danger. Chemerinsky lays out what would need to happen for a new constitutional convention, and in the book's more somber moments, he entertains the possibility of secession. West Coast states might form a nation called Pacifica. Red states might form their own country. He hopes that any divorce, if it comes, will be peaceful.
Let's just read these last two paragraphs here and then discuss.
The prospect of secession sounds extreme, but in suggesting that the Constitution could hasten the end of American democracy, Chemerinsky is far from alone. The argument that what ails the country's politics isn't simply the president or Congress or the Supreme Court, but the founding document that presides over all three has been gaining traction, especially among liberals. Books and op-eds critiquing the Constitution have proliferated. Scholars are arguing that the Constitution has incentivized what Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt call a tyranny of the minority. The anguish is, in some sense, a flip side of veneration. Americans have long assumed that the Constitution could save us. A growing chorus now wonders whether we need to be saved from it.
This makes me feel like they are, again, it's all about seeding narratives, right? Like the New York Times, some of these rags, they're just pushing the propaganda of the left, narrative warfare. This makes it seem like we're going to have a situation where Trump wins the Electoral College vote, but Kamabla wins the popular vote, and they're going to say, like, we can't allow this to happen. The Constitution is, it's unconstitutional.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I mean, they're kind of stuck with the rules one way or the other. How lawless do they have to get, and what peaceful remediation tool do the voters have?
Well, that's just it. We don't know how this plays out, and I believe Trump wouldn't have walked away without having some plan to get back in without voting harder being the plan. I don't know. And we have talked about Raskin was, and multiple people from the left, they've been talking about that 14th Amendment thing. I think that's in play too. That's probably the route they're going to take. So they're going to do something, and it's going to be some bullshit, but they're not going to let Trump just walk back in there. And Trump has to know that, and Trump has to have an idea of how to resolve this in a way that is least violent, because I don't think he wants violence. Any form of civil war is bad for us in terms of world stage enemies, whatever. And it's going to be like he's going to have the buy-in of a majority of the public, whatever he does.
Do you think that there's information that could come out at any point that would make the remaining gettable people immediately recoil from the entire uniparty project? I believe that there is. I believe there are a great many pieces of information like that. I believe those can be used at any point to sway the country to reach well beyond the critical mass necessary. Not that we're not getting close to it already without that. Anything more to delegitimize Kamala Harris, to delegitimize the process or any of it. I mean, anything that comes out about election fraud, it's the faith in the system is falling apart day by day. I go into the comments when people post polls now over and over again, and everybody's like, the polls are fake, the polls are fake, the polls are fake. Even ones that are being presented as good for Trump, they're like, nope, the polls are fake. That's an important thing to understand. People are like ramping up at a quick pace now as we're kind of coming to this thing, and people are realizing, oh, wow, this is actually like a big moment we're approaching. And everything seems really bad. Everything about that thing that's coming seems really bad. Yeah. Man, they cancel the election. Who knows what happens then? Patrick, go ahead and make your point, and then I want to say another thing.
No, I don't have a point other than to say the degree to which these elections are real, I think, is essentially nil. Whatever result comes out of them will not be credible. Mm-hmm. If you don't get some kind of remediation of that system, there's no getting through it. Now, I've thought to myself, okay, fine. Let's suppose that our guys get rigged in there somehow. Well, then the first thing they have to do is just unilaterally take down the election systems. There's got to be some way to do that, because we can't keep living like this. And what's going to wake up or cause, the massive population that you're thinking about to recoil? I think that there are countermeasures to almost any piece of evidence that can come through mass media.
Except if they're told that Kamala Harris won 100 million to 60 million.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, that's why I've been talking about. That's why I've been talking about this for so long. I mean, it really is that, I think. But here's the thing. So, I've spent this entire year focused primarily on following elections in other countries and like the geopolitical strategies for overthrow of nations by the regime. And we just went through this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Venezuela and that report from the International Crisis Group back in 2020. And you can go all the way back through world wars and all of it. It's always the same thing. They have control of the world finance. They control the currencies, they control economies, and with that, they can influence companies and individuals. They can compromise people and get them to do what they want. They also control global media, mass media. They can put out whatever stories they want, convince people of whatever they want to convince people of. And those two things together usually are able to overthrow countries just on their own. And behind that, they have the U.S. military to act as the global police force. Well, they clearly don't seem to have much control of the military. They've pretty much lost control of the communications. And I'd say they're damn near close to losing control of the currency thing if they haven't already. As more countries go on to the BRICS thing, Donald Trump is talking now about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. All of that is a direct threat to the central bankers and the fiat currency. And these are the three mechanisms through which they control everything. If those three are gone, then they don't have it anymore. You know, we already see the multipolar world emerging. We think that we're ahead of all these other countries. I really don't think we are. I think there are countries in the world that are well ahead of us in not only understanding this, but moving past it. And man, everybody's just fretting about a fake election, an election they know to be fake. It's wild.
It is wild.
Also, I think that we can get past any outcome of this fake election. Whatever the outcome is, whatever clown show we are treated to afterwards, right before, during, whatever, it is part of an operation to right things. And it might take longer than we're expecting it to.
Yeah. A friend of mine sent me an article, a Substack that a guy wrote, and the guy, you know, I'm not trying to totally bag on this guy. He seems like a thoughtful guy. He seems legitimately concerned, but he also seems like a normie who spent his time for the last 4 years around the intellectual kids table on Twitter. He hasn't considered any ideas that would be called conspiracy theorists or called conspiracy theories by normies. He's basically, all these people cut themselves off to entire bodies of knowledge. And so they think that everything is terrible and we're headed for civil war. Civil war is like the number one most desirable thing that could possibly happen from the perspective of the global regime, because that's the only thing that could destabilize this country and take away any momentum, justify foreign forces coming in, justify violence against patriotic Americans. And anybody who's talking about that is like, has missed the entire story.
I also think that the people of the United States in this era are too soyed out on.
Yeah, man. I really don't know about that, Patrick. I mean, people always say that, like, we should rise up. Why would that happen? Everybody still has the guns. You know, we could just not comply our way out of this.
That's how any civil war, in my opinion, should happen. Bloodlessly. You just say,
Right. Okay. Well, yes. But I don't think that it's a matter of soy out. I think that there are enough patriotic Americans who are strong enough that it actually, if something came down to it, they would act. But the goal is to avoid that at all costs.
Which is why Trump walked away in 2020. And you know what's interesting too is this story I was going to actually talk about later, but in the context of what we're talking about right now, this is actually much more interesting. The DOD came out and said that they're going to provide Homeland Security. Provide Homeland with support during presidential campaigns. They approved a request by the Department of Homeland Security to provide assistance to the Secret Service for the presidential and vice presidential candidates during the 2024 campaigns through Inauguration Day, the Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary said today. When you're thinking in terms of like military getting involved in our elections and like shutting some shenanigans down, they just embedded military within both parties' presidential campaigns. You know what I mean? So let's say Trump did devolve the military, and now you have him around Kamala and whatnot. What if they did try to do some shit? They could put that to an end real quick. And actually, do you remember that documentary we talked about a while ago? Oh shoot, what's that called? Is it Civil War? I think they talk about that. What happens if a rogue military? Well, let me find this quick.
Was that the one that was getting sold at Sundance or something like that?
Yep.
Vindman was in it.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I can't. That's got to be out by now, right? We should watch that.
I know we should.
I bet that would be super entertaining.
I would need to be sedated beforehand.
Hold on. I know I've read this on air like many times. I think it was coming out in August.
It's War Game, I think.
Oh, War Game. That's right. Okay, here it is.
Yeah, that's it.
This one?
Let's see. Dead air. So let's remember just to read it.
Hold on. I want to find the actual
I'm pretty sure that's it.
It is it. But I want to find the actual website for the film because they talk about. Here we go.
It's wargamefilm.com.
Yep. Okay, here.
All right. War Game sweeps audiences into an elaborate future set simulation that dramatically escalates the threat posed by the January 6th, 2021 insurrection. The film follows a bipartisan group of U.S. defense, intelligence, and elected policymakers spanning 5 presidential administrations as they participate in an unscripted role play exercise portraying a fictional president of the United States and his advisors. They confront a political coup backed by rogue members of the U.S. military in the wake of a contested 2024 presidential election. Like actors in a thriller, but with profound real-world stakes, the players have only 6 hours to save American democracy. The simulation's outcome hinges on several inflection points, from the government's capacity to counter the disinformation that's effectively spread by the insurgent side, to the potential invocation of the Insurrection Act, i.e. the nuclear option. While the exercise served to stress test our institutions, the film is a critical wake-up call, underscoring the urgent need for bipartisanship in safeguarding American democracy. Dude, they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act if they lose.
For sure. But think about a couple things here. Like, they just tried to take out Trump, right? Why would the military help out the DHS when the DHS is basically responsible for an attempted assassination on Trump? Like, because of their... Are they doing it on behalf of Trump? Or because of the deep state and the DHS?
Well, so these are 2 departments working together, right?
Supposedly, yes.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. I guess is it possible that that this is a cover story for something the military was doing? And it's like, okay, well, the DOD and DHS got together to make this happen. They could probably do that outside of, I would think. I don't know.
It is also interesting. It was the commander of Northern Command.
Oh, wow.
Didn't we just talk about him last week? I mean, it's a new guy now, but
We talked about
that
Van
was
Herk.
O'Shaughnessy, right?
Yeah, O'Shaughnessy and Van
O'Shaughnessy,
Van
then
Herk.
Van Herk,
Yeah.
and then this guy. Let me find his name here, because he just got put in there pretty recently. Commanders. Yeah, Gregory Gillote.
Yo.
Heard it both ways. Another Air Force guy.
Okay. Where does it say that? Okay. Wow. 4 Air. Okay. So it's all Air Forcers from 7.
Is it always Air Force?
I don't know.
Also Navy.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Army, Navy. I feel like don't they switch that around, or is it the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff they try to switch around?
I don't know, but apparently it is. It'll have a combatant commander who can come from any of the branches of the armed forces. Maybe that's true for all of the command centers, all of the fields of battle, or whatever you call them. The combatant commands.
This is what read what Van Herk said on when he was outgoing.
The outgoing leader of Northern Command and North American Aerospace Defense Command highlighted challenges the nation faces during a ceremony Monday, underscoring the threat of peer nations and violent extremists that are attacking our democracy online every day. Our own discord is being perpetuated to create internal strife within our government and amongst our people, General Glenn Van Herk said. He called on the audience at Peterson Space Force Base to come together to face that challenge. I mean, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, yeah, I don't know.
I always worry.
Go ahead.
I was worried when they use those descriptions about the extremists tearing down our democracy online. I'm like, oh, they're talking about us.
This freaking Badlanders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen this move before, and so it's notable to me. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something here. Don't get it.
Is this we're okay?
We already read this. I mean,
this one, yes,
we're just talking about it. So I can't think of any other. This is like a white hat move. It feels, if you're talking the white hat black hat game, they're helping to ensure that something doesn't happen to Trump any further, right? Because why else would they step in unless that was the case? And then also when you think January 6th and shenanigans, I mean, they are afraid of something happening on January 6th where the military doesn't follow orders or whatever. They say it in that war game film. Like, why else would they put that out? And now you have these guys embedded with what it says to be both campaigns. So
maybe these extra horrible people on the other side know what's coming, and that it is some kind of action by the United States military, the Defense Intelligence Agency, what have you, good guys. And they're setting the narrative early that this will be an unlawful attack on our democracy to try to get popular support behind them.
Yeah, man. I think that's exactly right, Patrick. And I think that this entire thing is like two programs that very closely mirror one another. And it's basically a war for the collective mind.
100%.
It will be hilarious, John, when they sign the Insurrection Act and they have all their people arguing for it. Like, we're probably going to get down to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bernie Brad's talked about that, the mirror thing. Like, they're going to end up trying to do all the things that they accused Trump of doing.
Yes.
In 2020. But we still have 2020 to rectify, and we still have whatever Trump did before leaving office to rectify. And we're going to get into some more of that here a little bit later with another NSPM. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there's still a lot of things. Like, this isn't just another election. It is a fake election, but it's not just another fake election. There's so many storylines dangling out there that need to be addressed at some point. And it doesn't make sense for us to just like pretend it never happened.
I guess maybe we'll do Devolution 2 Electric Boogaloo starting in January 2025.
Hell yeah.
I'm all in. It's just a psych op.
Oh, damn it. You just queued me up for that, but I was getting the boost pulled up for.
I'm pretty stoked that you pulled up the rants too, right? Because I can't pull them up.
I didn't pull them up, but I have. I can go back and look for them. So
that's amazing.
Just a psychop.
There we go.
There it is.
All right, I'm gonna do the boost real quick, and then I want to get into what we're gonna talk about next. We should just do NSPM, the NSPM thing next.
Okay.
After that, so okay, we got a few boosts. We also have a few rants from the live GART that I was gonna read. I gotta find those, but I'll do those a little bit later here. So CLP the third says, did you see the Chris Miller interview on the Sean Ryan podcast last year? I think we all watched that. It wasn't like a 3-parter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. Miller talks about Trump, irregular warfare, and energy weapons. Very surprising. Yeah, that was a old interview and very good one. And yeah, 1027JS says, happy Labor Day. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for the boost. By the way, guys, we're reading the boosts, which if you go to our website, badlandsmedia.tv, and click on support, you can leave a boost, a comment, and we will read it on air at any time. So even if you're not watched live. And also, another thing to do, get a Rumble account and hit that thumbs up. It's one of the best metrics we have to see how we're doing. So hit the thumbs up. We appreciate it. Yeah, it really is. Amber C says, hi, first-time caller, long-time listener since the beginning of the Devo series. RFK Jr. also mentioned CISA in his interview with Tucker around the 33 to 35-minute mark. Love you guys. You've kept me sane over the last 4 years. Thank you. Did you guys watch that?
No. What did he say?
The RFK Jr. Tucker interview.
Yes,
apparently, he mentioned.
I listened to a couple clips.
I listened to the whole thing.
I didn't watch it. Can you give us the TLDL?
I mean, it was good. He said some really wonderful things. I don't know. They kind of. I'm always disappointed in both of them in some way, right? I want people to tell the truth to the extent that they know it, because there are people out here yearning to hear true things so that they can better understand what this world is about and better plan their own futures for themselves and their families. You know, like we are, it's a destabilizing thing to not know what your world is like. And it makes a lot of sense that so many people are having trouble waking up and moving past some of this stuff, because letting go of that world won't make sense to them until they know that like everybody's doing it and they're not going to like go there on their own. You know, a lot of people haven't had that jarring experience where they realize that there's no going back. And so they're not ready to make that move forward yet. At some point that's going to happen. But Tucker Carlson's got a massive audience. People are listening to RFK Jr. You would think that they would be wanting to press the case. And instead it's just the same slow roll that I guess is someday going to wake up the normies.
Yeah, the stuff that I don't like about Tucker, and it's not that I don't like Tucker, because like I like listening to him.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's smart, he's funny, all these things. But then he like brings on Jack Posobiec and what's his name? What's the guy's name with Mike Cernovich? And these guys are like anti-Trumpers. I mean, whatever. You can say they're not, but
Post has definitely never been anti-Trump.
Well, whatever. Like he's definitely a Fed. Like he's not anti-Trump. Cernovich is anti-Trump, though.
Yes.
And conning. That's what I should have said instead of anti-Trump. They're conning.
The selected opposition, the people who are allowed to grow and become influential and who are influenced.
And never were removed from any of the platforms that they've ever been on for saying the right things or the wrong things, whatever. And the narratives they push there, that's the shit that just drive.
John, did you
have we ever lost John? John's never goes out.
There he is. Nope, there we go.
Did I go out again?
You went out a little bit, buddy, but you're back.
Had happened for a while. I'm gonna have to call and get. What are you getting? 5G up, 5 up, 5 down, or something?
5,000 up, 5,000 down. Fingers crossed that it'll work, because you know it is AT&T, so God knows. But anything close to that, and I will be able to stream in ways that don't make me the dude bringing the stream down.
Leave that to me, man. Let me play this. It's just a minute long, and keep it. Listen to what he says when he talks about Mike Cernovich here.
Joe Biden is the president, an illegitimate president. And, well,
Hey, John, send me or Patrick the clip.
Oh, dear me, John, dag nabbit. I don't think John can hear us. So,
wow.
I'll pull it up. You know what? Actually, in the meantime, I can do our next ad. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
All right. Excellent. Guys, check it out real quick.
Well, you're glowing, first of all, and it's great. And I love
it's
it.
Rainfall by epicminerals.net. If you want this glow, get this product. Rainfall by epicminerals.net.
Zeolite while you're at it.
Absolutely.
Promo code Badlands.
Like
using
Patrick,
light. It's great. It's fantastic.
Skin will glow like Patrick's Liberace shirt.
Every time you use promo code Badlands with either one of these products, money is directly deposited in a Badlands account going directly to Badlands creators.
It was absolute and complete justice. It was victory. It was victory.
Guys, epicminerals.net Labor Day sale goes through Wednesday. Everything on the website is 15% off. Use promo code Badlands. You get another 10% off for 25% off just through Wednesday. Crazy savings. Everything on the website, because I have just lost my mind, but my sanity will return at the end of Wednesday. So go to epicminerals.net. Use promo code Badlands. 15% off, and of course 10% off from promo code Badlands, and 25% of that sale goes into an account that pays Badlanders' salary. epicminerals.net. Well, Chris, we appear to have lost John for right now, but that's perfectly fine, because have you found the Tim Pool thing that he was looking for?
I certainly have not. I am not a person who is on Twitter, so it is especially difficult for me to.
You identify as a non-Twitter user. I forgot about that.
I was looking up the movie War Game. It came out on August 9th, and IMDb does not even say where it's playing, so I don't even think it's streaming. You might just have to buy it.
Wow.
All on its own. And so far, it has grossed $47,000, which is almost nothing. Maybe this is one of those things that they don't want people to see. What is the deal with this?
I don't understand it either, man.
It's so weird. It's not promoted.
Just a general feeling, Chris, that all of it on the Kamala and Tim Walz side is being orchestrated to maximum destructive effect for the globalist regime.
Yeah.
Everything is going wrong, and they're obviously trying to make things work, but they're being given such horrifyingly bad advice from beginning to end. For example, the way that the Tim Walz and Kamala Harris interview was set up. It was set up to make her look small and stupid. And all of a sudden, the mainstream media that has been so reliably in the pocket of the global regime are now playing it straight. They played it straight on the debate between Trump and Biden. Now they're sort of playing it straight in that softball interview with Kamala Harris, not making her look good at all. And Dana Bash, for the most part, at least not asking simpering questions and asking the occasional probing question that Kamala can't answer. It just feels orchestrated, as if we need such huge consensus that, I don't know, it's too big to rig. We overwhelm the voting machines, whatever it could possibly look like.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that we are getting to that point so that it's at maximum possibility that Trump will win in a narrative sense, and then we get the hose again.
Yeah, and what is that going to look like? What do you think getting the hose looks like again?
Well, it depends on how much people have leveled up about election fraud between now and then. You know, if virtually everyone is expecting a steal, and you get a steal so like massive that no one can believe it, that's when you can actually push through some changes and get some public momentum behind it. Man, I know that there are people who think that Trump's going to be pronounced the winner by the television, and then we're going to figure out how to change elections after that. If that's the path, I'm totally on board. And everybody has to understand that. Like, I want to win for real. I don't want to be told by the television that I won a fake election. That's not my goal. All right. I want to win for real. And so at that point, I don't know where the motivation comes from to have every election around the country forensically audited and examined to make sure everything's transparent and verifiable. And without that, then they can just steal up and down the ballot in state elections for state governments. They can steal the elections for Congress and Senate. No one will be paying attention because everyone's focused on the top line. And at that point, you know, then they're going to try the 14th Amendment thing, whatever they're going to try. Man, what has to happen is that the elections have to be examined, and we need a new system. This system is not capable of producing legitimate results. I wish it was, but it isn't. So we can either learn that between now and the election, or it can be taught to us in the harshest of ways after that point until enough of a critical mass is reached nationwide to ask for the elections to be resolved, because it wasn't asked for after 2020.
No,
like,
sure.
I don't have any doubt in my mind that Trump won by a lot. He might have won all 50 states, but the American public was still under the sway of the uniparty media, both sides of it. We had the conning factor. I say often that there is absolutely no way the country would have bought into Joe Biden winning that election if all the conning cucks hadn't just rolled over. They did. They went along with the big lie stuff and the very violent insurrection stuff, and they all just said, oh, I got to protect my platform. I can't talk about these things anymore.
And on that cue, I missed pretty much everything you said. Sorry about my internet. This is why I ordered Starlink, guys, my backup option. Hopefully that you can stop hacking that and shutting me down.
So you fired up Starlink just now?
No, it hasn't gotten here yet.
Okay.
That'd be amazing.
Hopefully soon. But okay, now I'm going to play this because it fits in perfectly with what you just said. Listen to this. Oh, fuck me.
President. An illegitimate president. And well, as soon as you bring up the election stuff, we are completely obligated to address it. Okay, we absolutely have to. We'll be deleted off YouTube in 2 seconds because of that conversation. And so I think one of the biggest impacts on the 2020 election was universal mail-in voting, not because of any kind of fraud. I certainly think, like what Bill Barr said, yeah, there's fraud. You know, we don't think there's that. You know, is there enough? And I've not had anybody come to me. You know, you've got wild and crazy accusations from people like Lindell and Sidney Powell. But when it comes to the more like, you know, we want to do a forensic audit, nothing definitive has come out to the point where it's been laid out. And I agree with Mike Cernovich, too. When Trump came out and started talking about fraud, it was effectively voter suppression because they convinced people not to go out and vote. So I look at this 2 ways. We've had multiple people on talk about this. I have not been convinced. And then we've also seen the detriment to future elections because of the narrative that there's no point. And I think that is something we need to avoid.
Did you hear that? I mean, he referenced Mike Cernovich and said, I agree with Mike Cernovich that Trump talking about voter fraud is effectively voter suppression. You shouldn't even talk about it. You know who doesn't want you to talk about stolen elections? The people fucking stealing elections.
Yeah.
I listen, bro. Tim Pool is a freaking, I don't have a word for him. He's a disgusting little freak.
You don't have a word?
I know. I'm like beside myself. He's sitting here begging the question. He's talking about, we don't have any evidence. That people talk about a forensic audit. I'm not convinced, you know, as if he's the final judge of all this, the beanie wearing queer. Anyway, okay.
There we go.
So
keep going. And
first thing he does is he bitches about, you know, well, I have to address it immediately because I got kicked off YouTube in 2 seconds. So he's confessing in the beginning of his monologue, I'm a money grubbing power bottom and I am going to stay on YouTube. The truth be damned. And then he proceeds to tout this faggoty company line. It's disgusting and it makes me clench my teeth.
People are going to start searching power bottom on Urban Dictionary and realize the impact of what you just said.
Just don't image search it.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
My God. Yeah, that's Mike Cernovich, and that's what I'm saying with Tucker. That's who Tucker gave a huge platform to. The guy who says that talking about voter fraud is voter suppression.
So here's the other thing. These guys have had to convince themselves that the election actually wasn't stolen, or that it was stolen legally, or that it was stolen through the media suppressing Hunter Biden's laptop. None of it having to do with the fact that the election system is wholly incapable of producing legitimate results. So they've ignored that the entire time in order to not present as liars on their shows, while they've been calling Biden president for the last 4 years and just groveling. And at the point where it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to everybody that our elections are obviously stolen, these guys should be known as liars and frauds who rolled over after watching the country be usurped in broad daylight.
Yeah. All because they don't want to get kicked, because he can't get kicked off YouTube.
Because he makes $1 million a week. Like, the amount of money these guys make is insane.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, do you remember when Steven Crowder did a whole monologue bitching about the unfairness of his $50 million prostitution arrangement with Ben Shapiro?
Yeah. Yes. And like, those guys aren't Rogan or Tucker. Rogan and Tucker, I think, are probably bigger and more valuable in their yeah. So the Daily Wire guys are making $1 million a week to make trans content and Con-Inc nonsense, and ignore election fraud, ignore problems with the currency and all that. Just talk about woke shit. Talk about whatever is the new hot topic of the day, some fake news bullshit that everybody has to figure out every single minute detail of, so that they can express their feelings about all the details.
It's so funny too, because I'm like over here celebrating, like, oh my gosh, guys, Rumble is making a change to their pre-roll ad system where we might be able to, like, make it some money. And then at like, hey guys, Zuckerberg, he apologized to everybody for censoring people. So I created an Instagram account, and I'm patting myself on the back like, it's been 4 days and we haven't been banned yet. Our Instagram is still up after not posting anything. With 160 followers, like, we might get our voices out there to some people. It's insane. It's two completely different worlds, what these guys do and how they operate, and the audience they get access to for operating that way, versus us who don't operate that way and celebrate getting, like, hey, we have 160 people on Instagram because we haven't been banned quick enough yet. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Dude, thank God for Twitter and Rumble. My goodness.
And by the way, everybody then excuses them and says that they're waking up the normies. It's necessary for them to go at this pace. Why? These are the people who keep normies asleep by convincing them that they are always somehow ahead of the game because they don't agree 100% with the mainstream media. It's bonkers, man.
And of course, the argument that couldn't be immediately used against what little Timmy already just said there is very simple. We have a system that cannot be checked. Mail-in ballots cannot be checked on to see if their results are accurate. That's the end of the discussion about our election.
Yes.
If you cannot check on the results, then the election cannot be considered credible. And whether or not you have smoking gun evidence that, Jimmy the mafiosi friggin' burned up a whole bunch of Trump ballots or whatever, it doesn't matter. The system cannot be validated. And now we have secretaries of state saying, hey, little county clerks, if you refuse to certify our really, really obviously stolen elections, we're coming for you. It's just naked, lawless thuggery.
Am I frozen again?
No, you're
you
all
got
right.
a little
You're
on the frozen side.
Yeah, you're fuzzy. You're like a slushy. Patrick, I wish Bannon had said to Tim Pool, how much election fraud are you okay with? Because you're saying that you're okay with election fraud. You haven't seen enough. Enough what? To please you. You saw numbers on the television, and you've heard news reporters repeat those numbers, and now you've been watching a fake president film sketches on a soundstage across the street from the White House.
Yeah.
And you don't think anything's wrong?
Not to mention the fact that he starts off by saying, pointing out election fraud is a way to remove faith in our institutions.
So crazy.
It's so crazy. And it's begging the question. He's saying, well, we already know that the elections are pretty good because I haven't seen evidence that satisfies me. And then bam.
Tim Pool thinks that Mike Cernovich is his really smart right-wing friend. That's how deluded these people are.
I was trying to show you my internet speed. Like, I don't know why I'm glitching out.
That's amazing. That should be really good.
That internet speed should be perfect. You got 27. Maybe the ping time is like changing a lot. And if I hear that makes a difference or whatever, but that looks damn good to me. It's a hell of a lot better than mine.
Definitely better than mine.
Doesn't make sense. And I'm like fuzzy again. Like, this is just so stupid.
Maybe it's the man trying to keep you down.
I think it's the ghost in the machine being like, you guys, hey, we need Tim Pool to be a douche for a little longer. Stop exposing Tim Pool.
I have not whored for likes at all during this episode. Guys, hit that thumbs up. It really helps us when you do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if we move on from this topic if my internet comes back. And let's talk about that NSPM, because this is interesting. So we got an email, and if I do freeze, somebody just...
Yeah, I need the link. Oh, I've got the link. Never mind. Sorry.
Well, first let me talk about this. So we get an email. Patrick forwarded it to me. It was from a guy, Skip32, and he says he looked up NSPM 32 using Yandex. Thank you for talking about Yandex. So that was you, I believe, Chris, who did that first.
Indeed.
And that brought us to this. And let me share my screen. Like I said, this is what he sent over. And if you guys remember, NSPM 32, if I can find, here we go. NSPM 32 is one of those that it's not public at the moment. It's not on the website. There's a few more that aren't 2930. And honestly, ever since I stopped writing the Devolution series and been focused on Badlands stuff, I haven't been looking for these like I used to actively look for them. So, but anyway, this is what pulled up, and I searched NSPM 32 in here. Okay.
John, did you happen to ask an AI if it could find NSPM 32?
I image searched through the AI, and I asked to find quotes and all this stuff. So I'll get into the details of that here in a second. This is what he sent over. This is what it referenced. Ensure the effective implementation of NSPM 32, Presidential Critical Information Requirements. So that's what it's called. Okay. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Started doing some research into it. And I only came across really 4 references online. This one from the Department of Commerce. And then we had something from the Bureau of Indian Affairs is similar to this. It just said ensure the effective implementation of it. And then this one and this is one of the more detailed ones, the Department of the Interior. And Patrick, I'm going to send this over to you.
Thanks.
In the private chat here.
Excellent. Got it.
And can I make this? Oh, I can search. So let's do NSPM 32. That didn't find anything.
And I'm going to be reading this for the first time myself.
Yep, neither of you guys have seen this. So
this has been in the wild now for a while now, though, hasn't it?
It has been. So other than this, the only other I only found, I was looking for the source, right? The actual just NSPM 32. And I did find a Twitter thread, we'll get to there in a minute, who claimed to have had, access to the actual NSPM. They didn't provide a link though, so I can't verify it myself. And I spent upwards of like 8 hours trying to find the actual source of this thing, and I couldn't find it. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just couldn't find it anywhere. But we'll get to that after we go through a little bit of this document, because I do think this is fairly interesting. Again, this is from the Department of the Interior talking about basically implementing NSPM 32 and what is. So Patrick, can you read just this first paragraph?
I certainly can. The Department of the Interior is required to report to the White House and to DOI senior leadership upon the occurrence of identified incidents and events. Presidential Critical Information Requirements, PCIR. Help. All right.
I'm trying to make this so it is bigger, but it's like a thing
I got
embedded within a thing.
All right. Well, I've got it right here in front of me on my own screen, so I can just do that. Presidential Critical Information Requirements and Secretary's Critical Information Requirements, SCIR, reporting are a collective responsibility that enables DOI to provide information regarding PCIR occurrences quickly and efficiently to the White House and SCIR occurrences to the Secretary and other DOI senior leadership.
Okay, now let's go into the background. So right off the bat, it says, presidential critical information requirements, and they kind of detail what that is. And so that's why I found this to be interesting. But again, it's not the actual NSPM source document, which we'll go through the thread in a minute, but let's keep going here to background.
Okay, background. This policy bulletin provides direction for departmental support of the President's National Security Presidential Memorandum 32. NSPM 32 directs departments and agencies to provide information to the White House Situation Room in accordance with the Presidential Critical Information Requirements, PCIR criteria. This information is evaluated by the Situation Room and provided to White House senior leadership up to and including the President. DOI is assigned responsibility to report on several events that fall under the General, Gen, and Homeland HMLD categories of the NSPM. The specific requirements and associated categories are detailed below. DOI reporting under NSPM 32 is a departmental effort. Prompt reporting by bureaus and offices of the Interior Operations Center is required to ensure DOI can effectively and efficiently provide the information that the White House has mandated through NSPM 32. The Secretary's Critical Information Requirements, SCIRs, identify information needed by DOI senior leadership to include the Secretary, Deputy Secretary, Chief of Staff, Assistant Secretaries, Deputy Assistant Secretaries, and Bureau Office Heads, as well as the wider DOI emergency management community. This information helps DOI senior leadership and emergency management personnel maintain situational awareness and ensure effective and timely decision-making.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in this and go down to the bottom, because it just talks about how they report, the cycle of reporting. And then here, these are the PCIRs, which again is, I already forgot the acronym at the beginning. It's Presidential Critical Information Requirements. And then the SCIR, which is Secretary's Critical Information Requirements, SCIR. And these are some of the things. So, and this only has to do with the Department of the Interior. Okay. So I'm showing you this before we go look at this other Twitter thread. And again, I'm doing that because I don't have the actual source. I can't verify it myself. But this is interesting. This is one of those NSPMs that Trump issued in his last 10 days in office, right? It was 10 NSPMs in the last 9 days of office. And a few of these NSPMs are missing. And so number 28, same date, 1/13/21, has to do with an OPSEC program at the White House, right? 29, 30, we don't know. 21 or 31, we don't know. 32, which is this one, again, January 13th. So we know for sure there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these at least on the same day, which is, I mean, this whole thing is nuts. Trump implementing this many, it's unprecedented. And to me, it shows that he was leaving on almost a wartime footing. There was national security concerns that Trump wanted to make sure were in place and protected before leaving office. And one of these that isn't public yet has to do with presidential critical information being reported to the White House Situation Room. And I got to imagine if you're a president implementing some sort of continuity of government, you probably have access to the information that's being reported there in some fashion, so you can act on it in some way. You know what I mean? So this is an interesting thing if this is accurate. But okay, let's look at some of these. Leadership event, breach of USG information, technology outage, cyber incidents, security incident. And again, these are only ones having to do with Department of the Interior. Loss of public trust. An event that is likely to cause the loss of public trust in a U.S. government department or agency.
That happened so long ago.
I know.
Media attention. Event that received or is likely to receive significant media attention and or scrutiny directed at the U.S. government. Alert change in continuity of operations. Alert level changes. Notable, if you remember, the day before Trump left office, the COGCON level was changed. Patrick, maybe you want to read these.
Absolutely. Okay, so alert level and change. Alert level change and continuity of operations. All right. PCIR, the presidential something. Changes to alert readiness posture level, e.g. FPCON, COGCON, continuity of government con, of federal executive branch departments or agencies as reported through the continuity status reporting process, or the relocation of key leadership and critical continuity personnel supporting continuity of operations and continuity of government. SCIR, continuity of government condition change or other continuity-related message from the Federal Emergency Management Agency Operations Center. Any incident that has the potential to impact the ability of a bureau or office to perform its essential functions, activation of a bureau/office continuity of operations plan, any information technology or communications outage that has the potential to adversely affect DOI essential functions.
Yeah. So interesting. Earthquake, tropical weather. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to read about COGCON level changes, I did an article on that, Devolution Addendum Part 2. And whenever I do my next recap series, which will probably be either Tuesday or Thursday, or probably both even, this coming week, I'm going to do both the addendums 1 and 2. And so those will be on there. But this is all about a change in the COGCON level. Anyway, back to this. Earthquakes, tropical weather, wildfire, volcanic eruption, deaths, injuries, or accidents, aircraft incidents, public health, oil discharges. Anyway, you guys get the point. And this is just the ones having to do with the Department of the Interior, okay? The only other place that I found information on this was from a Twitter thread by Cat the Great. And the reason I was reluctant to share it right away is because there's no source to it. Like, she says she finds it on the VA website. I looked on the VA website. I looked everywhere. Couldn't find it. But based on what the Department of the Interior has and the Bureau, or Indian Affairs Bureau and Department of Commerce, they all kind of say the same thing. I believe what they're showing here is accurate. Okay, so we're going to read through some of this, and this is the first part. This is the letter that was issued with this when it was sent to the agencies. Okay, so Patrick, can you see this? Can you read it?
Yeah, I sure can. The White House, January 13th, 2021, memorandum for recipients of NSPM 32, subject, distribution of National Security Presidential Memorandum 32. Attached is your department's or agency's copy of National Security Presidential Memorandum 32 as direct communication of new presidential policy and direction on national security matters. It must be safeguarded accordingly. In general, copies of NSPMs are not to be redistributed beyond your department or agency without the advance approval of the National Security Council staff. Public requests for copies or access to NSPMs or presidential directives of prior administrations should be referred to the NSC. All such requests should be directed to Corey Nightingale, the acting NSC Senior Director for Records Access and Information Security Management, at 202-456-9202. Signed, Matthias J. Mittman, Deputy Assistant to the President and Executive Secretary, National Security Council.
So this is the first page. Again, these are just pictures of it. I wasn't able to find the actual source myself. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I couldn't find it. But this is the part. So let me share this.
Did you try calling that number? All right.
I did not try calling that number. I did submit a FOIA request, and they said they'd get back to me in 9 months at the earliest or something. But so this was the screenshot showing the first couple pages of it. I want to read. Let's do this right here. This is the first paragraph. And this is pretty interesting.
John, can I see the heading of this document first? Just for grins. So classified.
Unclassified.
Unclassified.
For
Subject.
office use only.
Okay.
So classified FOUO, which is for office use only.
Establishing standardized procedures for recording presidential critical information requirements. Now, where does it say that this document itself is National Security Presidential Memorandum 32?
I don't know if it does in this, but I mean that's
itself
establishing a standardized procedure for reporting presidential critical information requirements is what the Department of the Interior said NSPM 32 was, and then if you couple that with this this thing for recipients of NSPM 32. But let's read through this first paragraph. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Part 1, unclassified. Situation. The United States faces significant and growing challenges from the fast evolving modern information environment. These challenges result from both positive developments in communications technologies and the malign use of such developments by state and non-state adversaries and competitors, many that use whole-of-nation efforts short of armed conflict in attempts to displace the global leadership of the United States, its allies, and partners. Under this strategic setting, presidential decision-making and policy implementation require a dynamic and coordinated executive response. To preserve United States leadership in the modern information environment and strengthen the nation's incident management capabilities in support of the president, the United States must share information on critical incidents in a timely and effective manner to keep pace with decision-makers' requirements.
So this is basically talking about narrative warfare, fifth generation warfare. I find it interesting because, especially when they say the part of whole of nation efforts short of armed conflict, that reminds me of Devolution Part 13 quite a bit, where Trump talks about, you know, our adversaries are adept at competing below the threshold of armed conflict.
Of course.
So it feels similar. Like Devolution Part 13, that's the devolution document, right? Executive Order 13961, the strategy that was released with it. That's huge devolution proof.
Yeah.
And then this NSPM, which again, haven't personally verified, but seems accurate. It's got the same language in there. Very interesting. Okay. Do you guys have anything to say? Chris, you've been awfully silent.
I think it's really interesting. In that same sentence, the phrasing, attempting to replace the U.S., its allies and partners. And whenever I hear allies and partners, that's always just such standard language for globalist communications that it always kind of cues me in. But no, I mean, I'm still just kind of observing and thinking.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. They use efforts short of armed conflict, which again,
displace the global leadership. Yeah.
Yes, psyops to displace global leadership in the United States, its allies, and its partners. That's interesting. But they're talking about information and making sure that information gets to the president as quickly as possible. And like I said earlier, if Trump implemented some sort of continuity government plan, he's going to step away, right, from he's going to devolve his authority. But you still want to make sure that you're maintaining some access to information. And I believe Trump has his own sources of info, but you never know what might come through channels that regular, like the executive offices might have. And so this whole thing is just fascinating to me. But I want to show, this is another part that makes me feel like this is genuine. And I don't know if we want to,
John,
even see this.
On that, I think, there's two ways to think about if there's something happening behind the scenes, as we believe there to be. You'd want some level of communication maintained for either Trump or whoever is, still in need of that information as they, quote unquote, leave government. And then you would also want restrictions on information within whatever we're witnessing now with the fake president, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. I would agree.
So do you think we actually have the text of NSPM 32?
I think that's what
the Department of Commerce.
We don't have the whole thing, but Here, read this policy part.
Certainly. 2, unclassified policy is for office use only. This memorandum applies to all executive departments and agencies, hereafter agencies. It is the policy of the United States that agencies effectively report information to the Executive Office of the President, EOP, in a consistent, standardized manner to ensure the President, the Vice President, and appropriate advisors within the EOP have the information they require to effectively manage incidents and crises on a national level and to support national security decision-making. According to this NSPM, so it's referring to itself as an NSPM, I suppose, there shall be an accompanying annex, hereafter the annex, that defines incidents requiring notification to the EOP according to procedures outlined within this policy. Such information will be referred to as Presidential Critical Information Requirements, PCIRs. This memorandum does not apply to pending or contemplated federal criminal or civil investigations or cases or other activity covered by the Attorney General Memorandum, communications with the White House and the Congress 2009, or with other applicable presidential policies that establish information sharing procedures.
Okay, so that's the policy. And then let me show you, and this is where I find it to be genuine. Oh man, that's really hard to read.
I can do it. Whoa, no, I cannot.
It's blurry as hell. But so if you look at this chart, yeah, I did send it to you. This is very similar to what was in the Department of Interior. You know what? I wonder if we can find some that match. Let's see. What is one of the ones the Department of Interior has?
Loss of public trust.
Okay,
I think those are even in the same order. Yeah.
Yeah, loss of public trust was.
Loss of public trust, media attention, alert level change.
Was Gen 7. So let's go look at Gen 7.
Oh, okay. So you actually have the PCIRs?
Gen 7. Oh, media attention.
It's just referring back to it.
That's media attention. Yep. Gen 7, media attention on the Department of Interior. Media attention, Gen 7. And then here, Gen 7 media attention. So this is what I'm saying. It looks to be the same. But this has all of them. So not just ones related to the Department of Interior.
Now, what exactly is the significance of the creation of this category called PCIRs?
Well, again, so what's happening here is this NSPM required all of the executive office of the president. So every department of the Interior, every single one you can think of, like including the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's like the only other one that has anything referenced in online. They are required to report information to the White House Situation Room if it affects their agency. Okay. And so in my mind, one reason this is significant is it's an NSPM that isn't showing up on this list here. And we know these NSPMs are significant because Trump issued 10 of these in the last 9 days, like as outgoing president. And we don't know what some of these are. So anytime we come across one of these, it's like, holy shit, this is one of the ones we've been waiting for. And to be honest, we don't even know if there's more than this. There might be more after 36 that we don't even know of.
Yep.
But for sure right now, 29 isn't there, 30 isn't there, 32, which is the one we're looking at, and anything after 36. And honestly, there might be NSPM 27 doesn't have a date on it. And then prior to that is
NSPM XX.
XX.
But also, how about the XX on the last date there? So it goes 1X, the one right before it, and the 2 X's indicates that that's probably switched to the 20th right there.
Yeah, makes sense. That would be January 20th, 2021. National Technical Nuclear Forensics.
These two are the last two on the last day, the 20th. But also, like, even Kate, it goes 21.
Remember, could I say something?
2.
Conspiracy theorist-ish?
Please do.
Remember the thing about Trump taking the nuclear football to Mar-a-Lago that day?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So National Technical Nuclear Forensics NSPM on the 20th of January?
Well, also number 31 has to do with nuclear. This one, 34, has to do with nuclear. And again, we don't know what some of these are. And if you look here, 21 has a date of...
When did Nancy start screaming about how Donald Trump had to be gotten out of there and it wasn't safe to have him in control of the nukes? Remember that last week?
It was sometime after the 6th, and his second impeachment, I
wonder if it's on the 13th when that thing dropped.
His second impeachment was January 13th.
How about that?
Look at that. Right after the issuance of...
But let me make one more point here.
Yeah.
21 doesn't have a date, but then we know... So 21 and 27, right? How many should there be there? 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. There should be... Is that 6 between 26 and 27, if my math is correct? And there's only 2 listed here. So who knows if there isn't more? Like, what if 27, 26, 25, and 24 come on January 12th? Like, we don't know because they're not on here.
That's right.
We don't technically know exactly how many. We do know for sure between 28 and 36, those were all issued in the last, 8-9 days in office. Okay.
Every single one of them could have been issued on the 13th, for all you know.
Well, 14th here.
John, you were just saying a second ago about the presidential critical information. Is it report?
Requirements.
Requirements.
Yep.
Okay. So you said something about the Situation Room.
Yes.
Can you repeat that?
Well, according to this, this is the Department of the Interior thing we read a second ago. It says in here, NSPM 32 directs departments and agencies to provide information to the White House Situation Room in accordance with the Presidential Critical Information Requirements criteria.
Okay. So then I guess my question would be, in kind of in line with what I said earlier about adjusting where communications were directed in this continuity of government period. The Situation Room then becomes a technical term and not just a room, right? It matters who is in the normal Situation Room and what would be the reconstituted maybe reconstituted is the wrong word. What would be the alternate Situation Room in the scenario that we're talking about here? Who normally populates the Situation Room, for one. I mean, he's certainly not... Communications are not going to be redirected to the fake president, Joe Biden, in this situation.
The way I look at this is, okay, based on the definition of devolution, and by the way, we do not know for sure if devolution is exactly what happened. That's what I believe happened. Like, Trump devolved his authority to other people, and they're maintaining the NEFs in whatever reprioritized and reorganized fashion they see fit. We don't know. But let's just say that's what's happening. Okay. Devolution to a T, definitionally, there's somebody out there who's in charge of overseeing this stuff. Not even Trump. Trump would be an advisor at this point, if he's even involved at all in the decision-making process with how they're doing this thing. It's probably not somebody within the White House, right? It's probably not somebody that's typically in the White House Situation Room. It could be, but it may not be. But if you want to make sure that you're keeping tabs on what is going through the White House, the Biden and his team, you would want to do something like this and just have a line into it. You want to make sure that, okay, everything is going to be reported to the White House Situation Room, but we have tabs on that. So we know every piece of information that they're getting. That way there's nothing critical that they're going to get that we'll miss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it could be that.
Conspiracy theory for sure,
No.
But that's my read on it.
It's an inference that you've drawn. You don't have to call it a conspiracy theory. It's totally logical and rational to assume that is one of the possibilities.
Okay, well, thank you. That was much nicer than I would have said about myself.
Well, but I also just, we should be encouraged to do those things.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to think of possibilities of what information could mean. And instead we got like the Tim Pools of the world being like, do you have a document backing that up? Where can you prove that? It's not worth
it's an entire burden of proof reversal fallacy.
Yes.
You just reverse the burden of proof. And it is disgusting. Even people on our own side say, well, the standard of proof for stolen elections
of course, must be very high. No.
It must be zero.
The standard is you are claiming that you deserve authority over me. Prove to me that you're running a fair election. The end. The burden of proof is on the people claiming authority from these elections.
Well said.
Totally agree.
But wait, what were we just saying about the Situation Room?
So basically all critical information, and according to this, we can even read through some of this because this has more than just what the Department of the Interior is saying. Leadership event, breach of U.S. government information, interesting technology outage, a cyber incident, security incident, loss of public trust, media attention, alert level change, that's the COGCON, earthquakes, tornadoes, floods, flash flood, tropical weather, tsunami, wildfire, volcanic eruption, winter storm, space weather. That's a fun one. And there's a whole nother thing here. Let me open this up. And then we have critical infrastructure incident. Like think of a big boat crashing into a bridge or something. Infectious disease outbreak, contamination incident, hazmat release. Some of these are hard to read. Diverted flight, plane crash, cruise ship incident, train crash, homeland terrorist attack, mass migration, mass flood migration of more than 100 persons. I bet the White House Situation Room is getting hammered with that one quite a bit. Weapons of destruction incident, active shooter, significant cyber incident, space launch or reentry failure, significant, what does that say? Is that interdiction? Oh, yeah. Any U.S. interdiction of nefarious something to include services of one.
Nefarious cargo.
Okay.
Nefarious cargo. Damn.
Yep. Supply chain disruption, and then international stuff. Hostile act against U.S. assets, outbreak of war, hostile act against U.S. interests, hostile use of WMD, attack against critical infrastructure, cyber attack against U.S. interests. And by the way, each one of these has like its own agencies that are associated with it, right? Cyber activity affecting U.S. interests, something overseas terrorist act, hostage taking, political. God, why? This is why I wish I had the source so I could read it. But again, these are images taken allegedly from the source. Seems accurate, but isn't along international borders, foreign engagement in civil war, major humanitarian crisis, change in diplomatic relations. That's an NEF. Financial sector incident, U.S. or allied significant something event, attack on U.S. allies or partners. I mean, you guys get the idea here. I'm trying to see if there's anything like super interesting. But these are all Department of Defense here. Defense. Green or blue attack.
What's that?
It says attack by partner nation, security forces, something in death or wounding of U.S. or coalition members. Green or blue attack. Yeah, I mean, I will get the source thing. I'm going to keep looking for it. See if I can get it from.
The thread says buried on the VA website. So,
yeah, but anyway, like this is notable. This is an NSPM. If it's the real thing that we haven't had before, and that's always notable to me. And so, yeah, I mean, it seems in line with something devolutionary, right? Like, and something they keep under wraps. Critical information reporting, all these things you'd want to know if you're in a state of devolution or continuity government generally. That I have to imagine that, like, that's the, like you said, Chris, the inference I made there, that makes the most sense to me. Like, they're keeping tabs on the White House Situation Room in some fashion, and so they're getting all of these things, and they don't have to have separate lines of information to get this stuff.
Well, okay, so let's can we maybe reconceive of the way that we're talking about the Situation Room? That doesn't have to be necessarily in the White House, if I understand correctly. Like when the president is at Camp David, for instance, there's a Situation Room in Camp David, is there not? So it would seem to me that if a president was, let's say, at Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster, then there might be situations there as well, or situation rooms there as well. And then situation room becomes more of an abstract concept. It's a skiff staffed by certain people. And so I'm thinking maybe there's something about that list of people who constitute the kind of quote unquote situation room. I'm just spitballing. I don't know if that makes sense or not. And I don't know, obviously, if that's how it works, but.
Well, technically the White House situation room is the situation in the White Room or the White House. But remember last week we were talking about Operation Looking Glass and how they set up like a parallel or a mirror of that in the air, like they had in the airplane, right? And think continuity government in general. If they have the president on a plane and he's like running operations from the plane, like he's going to have all access to all the same information there. They obviously have alternate sites for this other than just the White House.
Sure.
That's what continuity government is. And so maybe it's like being sent to both. I don't know. But this has a devolution-y feel. And no, it doesn't just have to be at the White House. It's definitely not just at the White House.
Is it referring to a shadow government, a devolved government in any way? Or is it just saying these are some new directives that we're putting in place for employees of the federal government?
No, it doesn't mention anything like that. But again, if you remember the context of it, talking about conflict below the threshold of armed conflict or whatever, that to me, like that phrasing is devolution-y. It's in NSPM, or sorry, Executive Order 13961. It's in that strategy document that Trump issued in conjunction with it. It's what Chris Miller talked about when he was talking to the press after leaving Van Herk's office, like on January 14th. That's another thing. This was issued January 13th. January 14th is when, what we talked about last week, Chris Miller goes to see Van Herk in Colorado, like commander of, what is it, NORAD and Northern Command. And he comes out, gets on the plane, him and Kash Patel, they take those pictures, reading documents, top secret documents, whatever. And he's taking questions from the press. And he's like, you know, our enemies, they fight below the threshold of armed conflict. I had to talk to this guy and get a read on his soul. Like that phrasing is talking about psyops, which is, if you read part 22 and part 23, it's one of the main reasons Trump walked away is to win over the population. And he did a bunch of regular warfare moves before leaving office. This is up that same vein.
Can I ask you a question about the below the threshold of armed conflict? Are we conflating that with the idea of psyops? Are we saying that that's not the only warfare below the threshold of armed conflict?
Well, like definitionally, it's a regular warfare.
Sure, but economic warfare would qualify as well, right?
Definitely. And I think here,
cyber warfare, for instance.
You know what? Here, read this, Patrick. This first part.
Certainly.
Irregular warfare.
Irregular warfare, an enduring mission and core competency. Irregular warfare is a struggle among state and non-state actors to influence populations and affect legitimacy. IW favors indirect and asymmetric approaches, though it may employ the full range of military and other capabilities in order to erode an adversary's power, influence, and will. It includes the specific missions of unconventional warfare, UW, stabilization, foreign internal defense, FID, counterterrorism, CT, and counterinsurgency, COIN. Related activities such as military information support operations, cyberspace operations, countering threat networks, counter-threat finance, civil military operations, and security cooperation also shape the information environment and other population-focused arenas of competition and conflict.
And then here, honestly, the very next paragraph, I just didn't have it in that part of the article where it says state adversaries. Read this, and this talks about the economic stuff too, Chris.
State adversaries and their proxies increasingly seek to prevail through their own use of irregular warfare, pursuing national objectives in the competitive space deliberately below the threshold likely to provoke a U.S. conventional response. China, Russia, and Iran are willing practitioners of campaigns of disinformation, deception, sabotage, and economic coercion, as well as proxy, guerrilla, and covert operations. This increasingly complex security environment suggests the need for a revised understanding of IW to account for its role as a component of great power competition.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest ones in irregular warfare is MISO, PSYOPs. It's huge,
sure.
but economic stuff is right in line with that for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's notable. Wanted to point it out. Maybe we'll find more on it later. But
yeah, it'd be nice to find out the friggin' provenance of all those screenshots.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking, and I'll get my hands on the source eventually. 9 months from now, at least, FOIA will get back to me, and I think it's like 9 months to 5 years they have to respond to that.
Elon Musk tweeted something pretty provocative while we have been on the show about, I don't know, 45 minutes ago.
Sweet.
Or less than that.
What did he say?
He said, let me see if I can pull it up on Twitter. There it is. Okay. Hold for processing.
Share your screen.
Yeah, I'm doing it. All right. There it goes. Oh, wait. Now I got to hit share screen. There we go. I'm learning. Okay. Elon Musk on Twitter. There is growing evidence that fake judge Alexandre de Moraes engaged in serious, repeated, and deliberate election interference in Brazil's last presidential election. Under Brazilian law, that would mean up to 20 years in prison. And I'm sorry to say that it appears that some former Twitter employees were complicit in helping him do so. Anyone with examples or evidence to this effect, please reply to this post.
Well, that is fantastic.
So,
fake judge, notice Elon's cluing us in. Fake.
Yeah. The guy looks like Destro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just fascinated by the election interference stuff because talking about election interference and for Twitter employees, and based on everything they did, like there's so much public evidence of that already. You can't imagine what's behind the scenes. But this is like step one to that. I got to imagine. Anyway, that is pretty awesome.
Dude, he's like a combination Destro and like evil Dr. Manhattan. I don't know how else to describe him, but he's a caricature. That's the important thing. A villainous caricature. Not sure he's even a real person. Many such cases.
Yeah, many such cases.
Did you guys see this one? Big shout out to Patriots in Control.
Hello. Did Trump just hint when the plan started? It started 8 years ago, maybe a little before that. Who knows? It probably started 40 years ago in our soul.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Let me just play it so you don't have to read it.
But no, it's amazing what we built all together. It started 8 years ago, maybe a little before that. Who knows? It probably started 40 years ago in our soul, but it started 8 years ago, and nobody would have thought anything like this could have happened. And it represents a tremendous piece of the Republican Party. And more importantly, it represents a tremendous piece of this country, tremendous piece, a lot more than 50%. Therefore, we have to get out and vote. But no, it's amazing what we built all together. It started 8 years ago.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was playing that twice. But yeah, you get it.
I love him.
Me too.
1984.
That was 40 years ago, huh?
Yeah. It's when it started in his soul.
Damn.
I mean, who knows, man? Maybe that was back when he first began doing his Batman stuff.
And Elon Musk is getting more and more based and red-pilled.
Yeah. I mean, he's been fairly based and red-pilled for a little while now, but
now he's calling this dude a fake judge. That's a new level.
Hey, Patrick, I was posting on Telegram about this today, and some of the people in my chat were two different people said that they were in touch with people down in Brazil who were like, if you put a VPN on, you can still totally use Twitter. And someone was down there with an American cell phone who could totally use it too. So,
but if you get caught, it's $8,000 a day.
I know.
What a random freaking number.
They got a collection problem.
Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, they had such a fake election. They had a Brazilian J6. It was obviously a farce. They have a Brazilian devolution Joe Biden in there.
And they had a Brazilian QAnon John.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The Viking helmet guy. Yeah. Are they able to keep us so siloed, and have they been able to keep us so siloed in our information receipts that we can literally have utterly opposite stories told to us in different countries and nobody has any way of finding out differently? Has it been like that for generations?
Yes.
Well, I think the stuff going on now is like more of the feedback loop stuff. Like they're feeding us these stories and gauging responses. And who knows like how much of these stories are actually accurate in the first place, but the stories themselves, let's just say they are true. They're feeding them to us and like gauging reaction. And that feedback loop determines how they move on to like, or how and when they move on to the next phase of whatever we're doing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, you guys ready to read through some rants?
Let's do it.
I'm ready to listen to you read through them.
I will read through them. And also, I don't know if I lost some rants when my internet went poo-poo. So apologies if I did. But anyway, Ash1776 says, Patrick, did you find your box of shirts?
I did.
I'll answer that for him and I'll say no. Oh, you did?
Dude, yes, I did. It's so stupid. Everything was packed up into boxes. Duh. So I found like a box full of like literally 30 shirts that I buy pretty much for the purpose of giving you something to make fun of on the Devolution Power Hour.
I appreciate that. It's a worthy investment, man.
I agree.
Bubba V. Bird says Trump's ex posts are powerful. He seems to be like actually posting like his old self, not just campaign posting, but him or Scavino and Kellogg and all those people gaming it out. They're posting again, so it's kind of cool. Guardian One Angel, $20 says, longtime listener, first time ranter. Thank you, fellas, for the work you do. DPH and Daily are my two gotta catch shows. Gart Upstate New York ? Maybe someday.
That'd be nice.
They're no
I bet
longer
you upstate
communists.
New York is delightful.
Prices come down and they're no longer communists. We'll think about it. VKS, one thing is for sure, Harris and what's his name are both disposable. I guess, man, we got, never mind. Keith O'Higgins, an interesting detail coming out of Kamala ads is her childhood photos that show she has a damaged and deformed right ear. She always covers it with her hair now. Ironically, Trump's right ear was shot. Never noticed that. Dixept says, I want MAGA to win everything and then the left loses their shit and they demand everything we've wanted. Fair elections. I like it. Thank you, Quinn. War Hamster says, just because I love Patrick's inflection when reading articles, proper level of mockery. Probably when you're talking about democracy.
Democracy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I put a lot of effort into it.
Jep 863 military is in place to guard all present and former officials. So when the I don't know if it's a typo or intentional because it could be both. When the elections take place and the outcome comes, they are T-ultra'd and seized and taken to Gitmo. No other way to get them all.
Gotta catch them all.
Pokemon. RPRN. The fear proves their cheat tactics have been thwarted. DJT will leave one tactic open and they must take it or lose. The military proves the cheat. DJT vindicated. Election system overhauled. Dirk McGurkin says Con Inc. is the deep state lubricant that makes the communist dildo go in deeper.
That's charming.
I mean, I guess he's got it right.
Good way to put it. Dirk McGurkin with another says Tim Pool is the leftover douche water used by hooker who makes 10K a night.
I've been looking up images.
Pre-read.
I've been looking up images of Alexandre de Moraes, and he's making the same blank, vaguely evil expression in every single photo except for one. And I've taken the liberty of uploading it to the overlays, and I'll show it to you now if you like.
Do it up, man.
This is Alexander de Moraes smiling. So suck on that, Patriots.
Wow, he has 1 million followers.
Why the hell not?
Well, he is part of international news items all the time. John, can you share my screen for a second? There, somebody on Truth Social, Rational Rick, pointed out this article from Just the News, and there's just this great paragraph down here at the end.
James said that Harris's reaction to Trump appears she's acting as though he were still in office and she the opposition. When asked what she would do on her first day in the White House, her body language seems to suggest that she has not set foot in the place so far.
So, James, that highlight that I just made above that explains who she is. A body language expert, communication and body language analyst. I mean, that's hilarious.
That is hilarious, and would make sense if something like Devolution can play. Oh. Ash 1776, who was talking shit earlier, but Poole has never seriously explored election fraud, and he would not let Brian talk about it when he went on. I'm with Patrick.
What was the point in having Mr. Election Fraud coverage, the cannabis conservative, on there, if not to talk about election fraud?
Well, I guess Tim Pool's Booker is like one of the cogs that makes the Gateway Pundit system go.
Yeah.
So I think that it was, and Brian writes tons of big articles for Gateway Pundit. So I think it was that connection.
Probably. Yeah. He knows somebody that like books guests for Tim Pool. And I think that's how we got on. So it wasn't like Tim invited him on to talk election stuff. He just knew somebody to get him on. And yeah, anyway. Heather Higgins, I hear Crowder is a power top.
I don't think that's true.
Jay Young's 93. Hey guys, can I get a happy 31st birthday shout out? Yes,
happy 31st birthday to you. Thank you so much for being here. We are enriched to have you.
Thank you, Jay Youngs. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. And how about that, man? 31.
Beautiful. Who ever heard of such a thing?
What a great age.
Yep.
I just tagged Denise Antu. I just tagged John Patrick in an X post about Mexico providing bus rides for criminal migrants with military and police escort to the southern border.
Saw it. I'll have to, chase it down.
We'll check it out. Melanie DBR $20 says, has anyone been able to make sense of DJT's immigration chart that indicates his last week in office was March 2020, 9 months before Biden took office in January 2021? We addressed this last week on the show, so I'd encourage you to check that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of very valid theories swirling around that. One of the things that I discount is, he just didn't notice that the arrow was pointed at this place. You watch him micromanaging the placement of a glass of water and the covering on it, and then just take the glass away. You know what? Take the table away. Hang on, bring the table back. Let's check to see what it looks like with a glass of water on it. Maybe it needs a coaster. You know what? Take it all away. That guy? No, he knew where the arrow was freaking pointed.
I wonder if people might not be aware of what you're referencing, and so I'm going to play that video really quick.
So glad that you have it.
Okay. Beautiful. Oh. I don't think you want to have the water in the picture, right? You can take it off. Yeah, put it over there, Nick.
Can I move this table as well?
Yeah, might as well take the table. Oh, good, very good, thank you. You know what you can do, Nick? Put the table back, because it's missing something. Put the table back and put the water on the table without the thing on top of it. Okay. How's that look? ahead, take it out. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Let's go.
Yeah, that guy inspects his visual aids, and that was a mighty big visual aid for his assassination party. And so he knew where the arrow was pointed. I simply take that as a given.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And he's referenced it a bunch of times since. There's no way that if it was a mistake, someone wouldn't have told him.
And the Daily Beast is all, fact check. He actually left office January 2021.
That's a good point, man. Hard to argue with it. Dirk McGurkin, John, are there any COG funding directives related to the DOE? Funding directives? Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I can check into that, man. I appreciate the comment. Dirk McGurkin, the DOE is, practically speaking, an operating arm of the DOD. I would agree with that, especially with the nuclear stuff. Call sign Cujo, Patel Patriot doing his most intense interview to date. No script, no muted mics. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Should be fun. Hey, I'm going on with call sign Cujo on Tuesday. So
nice.
Should be fun. Thank you, Cujo. Make sure you guys check that out. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Joining Cujo for an interview. Counterinsurgent. So this came from a Department of the Interior. The poster says she got it from the VA. Here's the Department of Commerce. Got all that. Thank you, Counter. Keith Higgins says Office of Indian Affairs Communications cover smoke signals. Love it. Final demand, $20 says suppression is the penance Badlands must pay for being the real truth tellers. Everything's on Trump's time. You guys are fucking that up. It's so obvious Rumble doesn't suppress or throttle you, right? Right, guys?
No comment.
Yeah, we're not going to comment on that. That might be... Sorry, I'm scrolling to see if there's any more. Oh, here we go. BS Girl, 1950. There you go, John! Exclamation point. Rambo and Friends leaves a period for $5. Thank you, Rambo. Nice to see you, man. Rambo and Friends, another one. I get so many pictures from Gart. I almost felt like I was there. November permission slip is in with Miss praying for a signature. Shoot me a DM, man. Let's talk about that. Oh, we got some more here. The Wrench 1776. John, love you. Chris and Patrick, you two are fucking hilarious with your completely opposite ways of body slamming retards. I love this company.
We try to be balanced in our body slamming of retards.
Thank you, Wrench. Meerkat says, I met Eduardo Bolsonaro about 9 months before their election and heard all the details of how it was going to go down. They knew it just like Trump knew it.
Damn, that's awesome. Can you provide a little bit more on that? Email any of us, pgunnels@gmail.com, if you want to, write an email at length about that, and make sure the subject line tells me what it is. So I'll be good.
That's the other thing, man. All this stuff is so planned out before it happens. I mean, I know it sucks because people are like, no, we've been in control. The people have been in control. No, you haven't. They decide these things at levels far higher than you going down to your local elementary school cafeteria and pushing some buttons on an iPad attached to a black box.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But that's all the rants that I got. So it's been a fun show, guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up.
Hey, thumbs up, guys. Do it for us before we get the hose again.
Yeah. Don't forget, epicminerals.net is having a big Labor Day sale.
Promo code Badlands, and everything's already 15% off. So promo code Badlands gets you another 10. Guys, the savings are insane. Go to epicminerals.net, promo code Badlands. Get your Epic Moisture Creamy Body Butter.
It's like you're paying them to get healthier at that point, Patrick.
That's exactly
at that price point. It's like you're paying them.
Essentially doing charitable work. I feel so virtuous.
Oh man, you are virtuous. And then again, thanks for sponsoring the show. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Witness the motion picture event that is being called fucking amazeballs. Witness the motion picture event that is being called fucking amazeballs.
you see the difference in the M there?
It's go time. 25 later on my.
You got a seriously weird ass way of looking at shit.
If you look at the waviness of the little flag that comes out of the R is wavy. The one in the first hump in the M is not wavy. It's just a pure arc. Does that make sense?
We want to warn our viewers that these are extremely graphic images.
Give me a second, dude. This is more autistic than I've ever been before.